here. Welcome tonight to the ID Network broadcast. My name is Dr. Lee Jensen, and we get together as an inspiration and encouragement network every week, a time or two, to talk about our circumstances with our profitable hobbies. We've been a company and a concept now for over 35 years. I've been playing with this direction personally for 38 years. And to grow old with something you love doing that can actually help you pay the bills a little bit and then get some tax write-off because your existing business is a pretty smart way to grow old. So all of us who are on the film strip tonight and are participating in the show, my gang are people that we've known each other for a very long time, and we've interacted quite often to help each other climb what I call now Success Mountain. I went up to Park City today with Chris and Joe. We're going to take him up to let him ride the horses. There's a National Ability Center, a horse equestrian ranch up in Park City, and so we went up and got the paperwork and started looking at what it's going to take for Chris to begin to ride. And there were some really young children there who were quite disabled, and around the horses I saw the most amazing mix of people and horses and children that I've seen for a long time. Just thrilled me to death that there's programs and people that are struggling with some pretty serious issues, and that they're finding new ways to be able to help these children. To the one mother, I says, how many times has your daughter been on that horse? And she says, just this is her third time. And already you could see some unusual kind of chemistry going on between the child and the horse. And I've often wondered how things work with us when we're influenced to do the things that we're asked to do or that we want to do. And then you get this somewhat kind of a power, this internal vision of the worthwhileness of what you're looking at doing. And I've always tried to help brand new people that bump into us, find our equipment, begin to look at sandblasting or engraving, power carving, these areas that we think are such great productive hobbies, help them have just enough faith in themselves to get to a point where they actually can begin to make this whole thing work. And it seemed to me that it was a similar kind of a task going on in Park City at this equestrian ranch today as well. So as we start into tonight's show, I want to try and have you literally look at it with some new eyes. When you bring up the word dreams and dreamers, just about every one of us that are in our circle are very, very strong dreamers. We all have taken it to about as great a lengths as we possibly can. All right, you should have the Success Mountain slide up.
Yep.
Okay, we're there. When we first started, none of us had a clue that we would do as much together as we do. And I think it still is the secret of developing your own art talent. Going at it entirely alone can be a very discouraging and challenging thing. So as we started to support each other, and I hung up my prescription pad from my professional career, I started handing out a passionate prescription years and years and years ago. You have to take the medicine, and you have to begin to work on those subjects and issues that you're facing individually, because every one of us have such different circumstances. But the second you start to see there's something more here for you personally than perhaps you thought of to begin with, then all of a sudden the possibility of a dream takes over, and then we've got a whole new thing going on. We went to dinner last night with my family and with Chris and Joe with Jack Solomon, and it was just such an amazing mixture, amazing circumstances of all of us as a family. Who Jack's been my kid's godfather for years, and to be able to sit down and have dinner and have such a good time together and have him treat my children so well is just an amazing thing in our life. And I spent the day yesterday videotaping him and his collection again. Now we've got the one home finished. Now we got to start on the other home. And he's got things spread out so much in his life that it's been rather challenging. And I videotaped 230 pieces of the most elegant crystal you've ever seen. And then we sat down in his private office and visited for quite a while together with the camera rolling as well. So I'm gathering right now something I've been working on and working toward for 30 years. And to hold a dream in your heart and your head for 30 years, I don't think is easy, unless it's your dream. If it's something you fall in love with, then the struggle part of your living will be over. I don't know how to say it any other way or any better way than for you to realize that spotting opportunities in your life has a great deal to do with your ability to dream and to look forward to a dream. What you put into your life is then how it begins to come out. And as I've watched people who have great lifestyles, in every case, they're the ones who have a dream in their heart and have hung on to it. They're the people who not only contribute, I think, so much to this world, they're the people who thrive. And I can't think of a better way to grow old than to fire up a really grand dream and then stay with it. It's probably the only thing I have done. I play a lot with my living. Most of you are really aware of that. Having a good time is my job isn't just a motto, it's a crusade for me. And so I look at the things that I like and the things that I enjoy, and I try and mold them into something of a prescription, something of a medicine, something of a box of hope for other people to realize the more you develop here, the more you will then have to share with other people. And if the world needs any one thing right now, they need a lot more hope. It's the only way things are really going to change. And I wanted to play this tonight for you. I'm going to close down the show and move over now to a clip that I found on YouTube that I think is going to really be fun.
No sound, Doc.
Is there any sound now?
Lou, your mic is turned off.
Got a mic now?
Yes, you do.
Okay, we're back to going then. Thanks.
Yeah, but I didn't hear any of the YouTube video. I don't know if the
Yeah.
others did.
No, I don't think anybody did, but I don't understand. I played it right through the system. A lot of times I'll pull it up from the outside, but I played it right through the dashboard tonight, and it still didn't come out right. So I'm going to have to tweak that a little bit. I want you each to go after the show and go look for that video. It's How Big is Google? And if you realize since 1995, when everything got started, Internet really began in 1995. If you think where you were and what you were doing and who you were, what was going on, we were just blazing in those days. And I was so busy having such a grand time with the success that we were enjoying at that point, I began to quit watching everything else that was going on. And one of the most embarrassing parts of my life was that David Green from Hobby Lobby called me and said that he wanted to sell Paragraph packages in all of his stores, and I didn't realize who he was at the time, and I told him I was doing all my own retailing and didn't really want to go the wholesale route. And now I just sit back and think, oh, Louis Starr, you made this really not good decision in that particular moment. But I misjudged the Internet and the power of what's going on then as well. But I think so many of us, the older generation, have. We just don't realize what's actually going on here. The ability to connect and link like we are and exchange. What's happened now is we're all progressing at a whole new rate. And could that not happen then for your own individual dreams? What you expect to accomplish, what you hope to accomplish in the near future now should be more within range than ever before. If you see the potential of what we're playing with and what's going on in the marketplace. When you really, really do believe that anything is possible, then all of a sudden there's a reason to work at this. There's a reason to work harder at it. It isn't any different than any other tool you've ever picked up in your life. I know most people say, yeah, I really hang on to my dreams, but most people really don't. And when I first bumped into the idea of mathematics and psycho-cybernetics and traumatics and dramatics, ATICS hacked on to the end of a word means the study of. And so if it were dreamatics and it became the study of something significant to you, that could fit onto practically any word that you wanted to attach it to, because it would be a study of that level of interest that you have. Now when you put this word combination together and then you begin to make it the cause of the rest of your life, it's no different than everything you've ever done. You wanted to learn to draw, you pick up a pencil, you start learning. I mean, think of all the different ways there are to sharpen a pencil, and all the different kinds of pencils, and all the different consistencies of the lead, and all that stuff you have to kind of learn before you even can start making a pencil work well. And then you've got all these other issues. And most people, I think honestly, do avoid the study, or at least the very involved study of what they're trying to learn and begin to acquire. And it's true in business, it's true in art, it's true in life and living in general, that the determined study of something, the really paying attention to the issues that are related to that study, produce results, as the use of any tool will. And so if that then becomes the dream that starts to light the individual fire, I've always felt like my only real role is right in that beginning stage to help you have some faith in yourself until you can begin to see that you have that faith, that faith that's going to actually help you as well. Alan used to work for us. He worked on our phones, was a salesman for quite a while. And then he got the chance to sandblast that one rock for his family. Their pet hamster died, and we put Patch's name on a rock, and it caused such a stir in his community and his neighborhood and area around him with other pet owners that he started right there doing pet memorial headstones. And that was all it took to begin with to get that fire lit for him, because he hadn't seen that kind of opportunity and potential before. When Jose first started playing with his abilities and his interests, he struggled just like all of us do in the very beginnings of seeing what might work and how can I make this work and how can I learn this new skill. A lot of different tools out in the marketplace that will help you and that eventually you're going to acquire. I remember when he bought his microscope finally, and up to the time he hadn't carved under a microscope and used much magnification, and so the work was a little rougher. The second you start using high-powered magnification, then all of a sudden the quality, especially on the smaller projects, begins to really be enhanced. Now, I'm going to submit that every person who's been playing with us has gone through this same curve, this same learning profile that you get started with and you end up producing what then actually becomes the rest of your life. And I always try and say, well, if you're not envious of the person who comes up with this concept and they can make it work in their life, what you should do is just tell yourself, well, if Jim can make it, and if Jose can make it, if these others can make it in this same circle and concept, then geez, why in the world can't I as well? I wanted to show you tonight now that we have 12 more members in the Dreamers Toolbox community. And I'm going to ask you if you sense at all, if I just keep mixing with Dreamers Toolbox, what's likely to happen? There's so many people out across the world who are looking for a way to basically transform their individual life. If you've not read or realized, transformation is the #1 word in the marketplace. More people are worried and concerned and looking at this idea of transformation. How can I shift the gears in my life from my as-is world to something better? And that is literally a transformation. And to me, these are the tools of how to dream again, how to have in your own head and your heart something that lights you up to the point you can take on just about anything. I've learned enough now that if I keep this dream uppermost and I put my shoulder into it, something's going to change, something's going to move. And I'm so fixed on the idea of, well, my whole world is tools and the use of tools, particularly hand tools. And so to come up with a toolbox, an idea of what kinds of tools might be in a Dreamer's Toolbox. And I want to visit with you a little bit about this, right about this point, because I'd like your initial impressions of what kind of a tool, and I'm going to make notes of them. We'll just leave the slide up, and then each of you, as you would like to contribute, what tools do you think are in that Dreamer's Toolbox? So far, with your experience in life, what have you seen? Mel?
Well, there's a few things that you could have in a Dreamer's Toolbox. One of them is a sketch pad.
Sketch?
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of my jewelry designs start out as a sketch, and if I don't like the looks of what is developed in that sketch, it never hits any part of the metal.
Okay. So how do you use the sketch? You have an initial sketch and then you refine it, or it's just a means of capturing the thought and the concept at the moment?
Well, when I when I start out with a sketch, I don't know what it's going to turn out to be.
Okay.
It's more like doodling.
Yeah, I agree, but I think it's a form of that same thing.
And as it develops and matures within itself, once it becomes completed,
Dramatics.
if I like it, it gets changed into something a little more dramatic.
Okay.
If I don't like it, I turn the page, start over.
Start over. Okay. Somebody's got a mic open, so check all your mics.
Yeah,
Make sure
I think
your
it's
mics
okay.
are closed. Okay. Anything else you want to throw in on this?
Well,
Yeah, Lou. Oh, go ahead, Mel.
Oh,
it was interesting this last weekend. I was at that tattoo convention,
yeah.
and some of the tattoo artists were watching me engrave on beer mugs.
Mm-hmm.
And their comment was, "Ooh, he ought to be tattooing." And my wife said, "Well, he is. He's tattooing that beer glass." And it kind of hit him upside the head. That, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize what was
They
actually
wandered off a
going on.
little baffled, and but why would I want to go into their world and compete with them with their equipment?
Yeah.
When I have my own equipment,
Well, and you have
my own
such a
dream and my own direction.
way wider world to look at, because when we tattoo everything, that means there's just about nothing out there that can't be tattooed. And all they're doing is tattooing skin, so
They're
you would be
We're decorating everything else.
everything else. We ought to coin a word for that. Why don't we be the guys that come up with a word that is para-tattooing alongside of, similar to, but not really? Let's look at that. That's a neat idea. That's a neat idea.
Oh, what do you do for a living? Oh, I tattoo metal.
Yeah.
Or I tattoo wood. I tattoo eggshells.
I tattoo motorcycles. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Auto glass.
All right. We got sketch now. Sketching as some kind of a dreamer's tool seems to be a very dominant across the board. Most all of the people who are great dreamers, I think, do quite a bit of sketching. So let's just do like Mel said, let's just put that down and let's play with that a little bit. Who has got another one? Ron, you were on. What did you think?
Yeah. Your mind, your thoughts, and your imagination have to be part of that dreamer's toolbox.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Imagination is the definition between imagination, intuition, and creativity have always bothered me. There really isn't a good definition that splits those out. And most people use those words interchangeably. So what do you think imagination means? What is it to you?
Well, when I think of imagination, I think of that quote that whatever the mind of man can conceive, he can achieve. So your imagination is your things that you think about that you want to achieve. You know, whether it be your drawings or whatever. You know, you use your imagination, whether it be your book that you're writing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of it comes from your imagination.
To me, imagination is the ability to get beyond the current horizon of your own thinking. In other words, you've thought it up to this point, And then I don't know if it's the mixture and combination of unusual things that then come together. Jack paid me quite a compliment last night because he says, "You're the most unusual thinker I've ever met." And I'm most often that's said to me in a negative format, but coming from Jack, it was quite a compliment. But I don't still really know how those unique thoughts show up, and I'm not sure anybody has quite figured that out yet. When Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge, it's a great quote, but I'm not sure anybody really knows what that means. So we'll put imagination in there now. So we've got sketching, which to me needs to be more defined, and then we've got imagination, and probably intuition and creativity into that a little bit. Who else has got an idea? What other kinds of things do dreamers use as tools to fabricate and then hold on to dreams? Anybody else got any ideas, Jay?
Well, one thing that I always do whenever I'm out and about, whether it be my phone or it be my little digital camera, I always carry some kind of camera with me. Because I
Okay.
never know what I'm going to run into that's just really going to catch my eye and really get me thinking.
Okay. So somehow the capture of ideas.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good one. That's a really good one. That's one I use also a lot.
Lance had something.
Go.
Well, for me, I mean, when you talk about imagination, one thing that goes hand in hand, it might be a separate entity, would be making sure you aren't putting boundaries on what you're trying to, on your dreams. And
Yeah, good one.
sometimes, you think of a daydream. You're daydreaming, you're just thinking, and you don't know how you got from point A to point B. When we were kids, we were good at that. You get in a class we didn't like, and all of a sudden we're starting here, and before you know it, we're thinking of something so far the other direction. And sometimes you just got to put yourself kind of a point of view, not necessarily angle view, but maybe how would someone else look at this? Be it a dog looking at something, be it a 12-year-old kid looking at something, be it a 3-year-old kid, especially with little kids around. Sometimes they look at something, if you listen to them, oh my God, where'd they get that?
Mm-hmm.
If we can learn to do that, we can get some different angles on things, and we can really come up with more.
Excellent, excellent, excellent point. So it's kind of the self-imposed limits of our normal living that begin to mess with the possibility that we could think of anything really new. Isn't that sort of what you're saying?
Yeah.
All right, Deb, got anything you can think of?
What I wrote down was sometimes we have to have our life experiences that can help throw us into move on to what we want to dream about. That could be a double-edged sword. It could be a negative, but if you look at it positively, you can go beyond that, I think.
Yeah, it kind of helps to measure your past to see any progress in the future.
Right.
That kind of what you're saying?
Yep.
I think that is genuine. I really do. I saw a young dad walking across the street today with his 3 little girls, trying to get them, herd them through the walkways from one side of the street to the other, and he was just having a nightmare. There were all 3 just wound up little girls, and he was just trying to herd them like little chickens across the street. And I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, from my perspective, I know what he's now looking at, whereas a young father, you don't have any idea. No idea whatsoever. And I think there is some advantage to that experience factor. Certainly would make you better, well, like you said, a two-edged sword. You got to consider that a little bit, because that two-edged side of that is amazing. On one hand, your experience can hold you back, and on another hand, it can help you genuinely spot new opportunity. Great. Good idea, Deb. Thank you. That's going to be really fun to chew on. Joni Beck.
Yes, with me, it's color.
Color. Whoa. All right.
That you could use color, and it can, your imagination goes crazy with all the things that you could do with color. And that is always in my toolbox.
All right. I have to think about that one for a while, Joni. That's fun. All right, Dean.
Well, I always think of something that you're always talking about, which I think is true, is that one of the biggest things I think you have to have in your toolbox is a thread of interest, something that really intrigues you, that always catches your attention, and that fuels your mind to try to figure out ways that you can come about or come up with for expressing that are not necessarily a copy of ways that other people have done it. And
Yeah.
that goes right back to the thread of of imagination that we were talking about earlier.
Unique thinking is what really is the reason to play with all this, is to see if there's...
You have to have a purpose for building a toolbox in the first place, I guess. So.
Yeah. All right. I like that one too. Roderick?
How about the willingness to take a risk, and risking maybe making a failure, but then learning from that, and then...
Excellent. Getting beyond what might be something you actually are concerned about or fearful of or hesitant because of it. All progress to me is a risk, always, and I do think there's an element that tends to hold you back. So if you looked at the idea of having a hammer in the toolbox that would work with dreams and dreaming, what out of what we've talked about, or what else we would look at or consider, could we have a hammer on what we've talked about so far?
Hammer on fear.
Hammer on fear, yeah, I think maybe that's pretty dang good right there. All right, now let's just take a second. Do you see what we're doing? You see the fact that we all know each other fairly well, and we've mixed together quite a bit, and we're on a similar kind of journey in many respects, but we still each live our own individual lives. But we're taking a circumstance to gradually mix something that we mix in a way that's quite unusual, quite unique. I've not ever done a show quite this way before. But I'm pretty damn determined to make the Dreamer's Toolbox become the statement of the remaining part of my life. And when I stumble onto something like that and I'm pretty good at staying on it. Figuring it out is perhaps going to take the rest of my life, but it will you as well. And yet I love the concept. I love the idea of saying, well, if the difference between most of us as human beings is the tools that we have and our ability to use those tools, then would not a Dreamer's Toolbox be a really, really important thing? And the sooner you get those tools and the sooner you start learning how to use them, the odds are that you'll have the greater will be the transformation. Did I miss anyone in the film strip? I can't remember.
Jose.
Jose is in here tonight?
Yes.
Valencia, did you get in, buddy?
But I finally got in.
Good. So how's your life doing?
Oh, well, we've been doing pretty good.
Doing good?
Yeah, I got an email from my client that they just got in. They were still in Washington D.C. this morning. They'll probably be getting home tonight, and they decided to scratch the carving on the tree with the big 5. That apparently we're probably gonna be doing it up the tree. So, maybe put the faces of the big 5 as we go up the tree, and then they said that on the last 5 feet, maybe make it like a totem pole with eagles, or they're still, yeah, they're still gonna be working on those ideas because they want birds on the 3rd floor now. So
Okay.
they told me they're gonna get back with me early next week. So I'm still here in Phoenix.
Good. Well, what an incredibly great time in your life. Do you remember back when you couldn't have dreamed this in this range?
Oh yeah, that was about a year ago.
Oh, that's a great
No,
answer, by the way. That's a
yeah,
great answer.
it's just been phenomenal. This is every looks like every week is getting better and better. And um, I never thought that I was gonna be doing a piece this big for that kind of money.
Yeah,
It's just
no,
amazing.
got
I
to
rem
be.
I remember you telling me that, back then, well, it was maybe 6, 8 years ago, and I would just say, yeah, right, yeah, like that's going to happen. But and then I put it on the back of my mind, and one of the things that I would add to that toolbox is perseverance. You
Oh,
know,
bless you. Yeah, that's the
you know,
one.
'cause
Boy,
I,
that one has to be in there, doesn't it?
yeah, because we get thrown a couple of monkey wrenches in the whole project, and either you give up or you find a solution to go around it. And I didn't really have a choice. To me, this project had to be finished, and there is no alternative. That was it.
I doubt you could point to anything that anyone's ever done that you could measure it to a degree of success that hasn't required persistence. It still is the grand toolbox, or the grand tool in the box. I don't know what we can compare it to. What I want to do is I want to try and title these and then define them and then image them. I'd like to come up with images that if you scanned in a toolbox, you look in a toolbox and you see a crescent wrench. Most of us know kind of what an adjustable wrench will do and where you might probably most use it. I stopped by the shop today and the boys are just cranking things out right now that are just really working hard and really, really productive. But our machines over there will do things that are pretty exotic things, but it's still a tool. And they've got invented all these little tools that will do all these nifty little things. And in dentistry, we had all these crazy tools that somebody thought of and they invented and then had them made and then plunked them into an industry, and then they either get used or they don't get used. And I'm thinking, well, wouldn't the Dreamers tools be so, really feels to me like it's got a lot of power to it. So I'm going to put them down and we're going to chew on these. We're going to use the same concepts we've been talking about to try and enhance these. And so I'm going to post the list, and then I want you to put it over into your digital journal. If you're playing with me and you still haven't set up your own digital journal, or you're not using it much off of Google+, please fix that tonight. Try and get your digital journal set up, because what I'm going to post and send over to you now, then you could put it over into your personal journal and then you'll chew on it once in a while. And that frequency, there's the tool I wanted to put into the mix tonight that we've not talked about yet, is something about playfulness. When you're playful with an idea and a concept, it means you've given it some time and some thought, but some unusual handling. Playfulness with an idea, to me, is where all really great, it's that catalytic moment where up to that time you didn't have the idea, and then bam, it's like that aha experience of a really great idea. It shows up. And if you don't play with this, then you're not going to contribute as much as those of us that do. And I think it will help you. Basically, if you look at potential like Edison did problems, opportunities are always problems and wrapped up in disguise, and your own individual circumstances, whatever might be the list of the most difficult challenge you're facing in your life right now. Can you stop for a second and think about what that challenge might be, and then how wonderful would it be to overcome that individual challenge, transform your life with some kind of a dreamer's tool, something you're playing with that you perhaps didn't expect before. And wouldn't that be just like medicine? Wouldn't that be something that would just change the overall circumstance? It's a little bit like saying, well, if it happened to Jose, like it has happened since January, isn't there that same kind of potential for each of us? The stuff I'm playing with right now with the Smithsonian and the potential of Jack's collection and the videotaping of his $1 million collection of handmade stuff. I stood with him in that crystal room last night, and all I could think of was the talent and the people, the quality and the skill range of the people that have produced his etched crystal is unbelievable. Absolutely the most magnificent expression on glass and crystal. And Jack was talking, I asked him, I said, how come you've collected this stuff? And he says, well, everybody collects flat art and everybody collects bronze and casts and stuff. He says, I wanted to collect something really unusual. And he says, glass is really kind of unforgiving. You either can do it and do it really well, or you can't. And you can't, like a painting, you can keep pushing it around and paint over it or all kinds of things to modify it. But with glass, you don't. You get pretty much one shot at it. It can be broken at any point along the way. And I said, yeah, and on top of that, it's probably the kind of art that never degrades over time. So literally, if things go forward as they have in the past 5,000 years, 5,000 years from now, the crystal that's been hand engraved that Jack has gathered and put into that collection could still, in theory, still be around. And I think, God, that's pretty important stuff. That's stuff that starts to make your dream bigger than even yourself. Hope and effort and a reason for you to become the better you, to develop the skills and then turn around and share those skills with the world is, to me, the very profound reason for you even to be there. I'm having so much fun playing with Google+. I've not had anything with the internet that's turned me on as much as this has. And I'm so convinced that our whole generation needs to know how to use these new tools. Most of them are not even paying attention yet to what the strength of Google+ and what it's doing or how well it works. They're playing with their family and friends over on Facebook aggressively still, but I still believe what I see sneaking up on the economy is this function of Google, who basically dominates the search engine capacity. Their ability to help pull that over into a very functional social profile, social medium, seems to me to be super fun thing to play with. And what if we're the circle that begins to pull that out and make it actually work? when you start out using a brand new tool, what are the things? Mel, you've done an awful lot with new tools and tools over your lifetime, your work with your stainless steel and your military services. When you're saying you're teaching your grandchildren or someone new to use a new tool, what are the things that you talk about? What are important in the early stages?
Well, one of the biggest important things are safety issues.
Okay.
Once you get those down, then you can play.
Okay.
You tell them, okay, you got to go in, be gentle with it. Don't be too aggressive.
Okay.
Because a lot of times if you rush in, you break something.
Okay. So gentle, careful.
And
What
just
else?
see what you can do with it.
Okay. So where do you go with that?
The imagination is it's limitless.
So you start testing the range of the tool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've tested a lot of them.
Test the range. Okay. So to me, the range would be kind of capacity. What it will do, am I saying it right?
Yeah. That's where you're doing it carefully.
Okay. All right.
What kind of materials can you play with it with? What will happen if you get just enough torque on it, but not enough to break it? You got to feel it out.
The power pin is particularly tricky in the beginning stage because most have used a slower, higher torque tool. They're not used to such cutting ability with almost no pull, no rotary pull. So it's always, when I've done my shows and do my demonstrations, I've constantly backed people off right from the beginning. So it's that careful, gentle safety. I'm going to have to think of another word to say that. Anybody think of another word?
Well, if you get too aggressive with a power pin, it'll bog down.
Yeah, you'll torque it out really quickly.
And especially if you're dealing with wood, you learn that really quickly because your burst stops.
Yeah, you just literally can mire it right in. Excellent, great concept. Anybody else? Did this trigger any other thought out of any of you? What does it take to learn to use a new tool? We're kind of headed with it. Go ahead.
Well, when I started, it was all trial and error. What the heck does this do? What the heck does this do? What can this burr do? What can this, just on and just keep trying and trying and trying and finding out, no, it doesn't do that. And is this too small? Is this too big? It's, especially with the power pen, it's not so much the rotary tool itself as what are those little pieces of metal that you stick in the end? What do they do? And boy, I tell you what, that's the time-consuming part of it for me.
Okay.
Well, I made enough mess. And oh gosh, it's funny, these round diamonds break off when you push on them hard. Okay, don't do that.
Probably had not to do that. They're welded on. They can
I can't even count how many times I broke those things off.
Yeah, all of us. There's not a soul played with the drill that hasn't wrestled with the testing of it. Excellent. All right, anything else? Anybody? Anything brilliant at this particular, when you're just teaching somebody new to use a tool?
A good instructional video would help.
Okay, so what you're doing is sharing experience.
Okay.
Sharing experience. This is what's happened to me, and we could share experience. Now, if we're talking about dreams, won't it have a similar kind of an application for us? If it's a tool and we're trying to teach to use, I'm seeing two places. One where someone has never done a lot of dreaming in their life, and then they come alongside somebody who is pretty aggressive with the dreaming tools. But then the other person that's just worn out, they're just tired, they've struggled with life enough, they have quit dreaming. And I see that in our older generation. I think that's one of the biggest issues that we're all facing and struggling with. Figuring out, okay, when you first start using the power pen and you first start learning the carve, you first start learning the sandblast, you're learning techniques and basically tricks of the trade. But then you've got to practice to the point, and practice is probably one of the most important skill developing techniques I think there is out there. Can't wait to sit down with Keith Hone and go through this list, because he's done so much teaching and sharing over the years, and he's so good at it. I'm wondering if there's not something here that we're actually overlooking.
One thing we're overlooking is we all have to get reacquainted with our inner child that was locked up so many years ago.
Is the child and unlimited thinking? Is it that thing that Deb was talking about? No barriers. They don't know the.
It's close, because children don't know their limits. Their minds are just out there. No boundaries in their thinking.
Release thinking. Actually beyond no boundaries. Okay.
Dean's got his hand up.
Dean, go for it. I don't see any of you, so when you've got something, just say. Just come on out.
Okay. Just to add to what Mel was saying, one of the things that one of the advantages the kids have is they really don't care what the world thinks about what they're doing or what they're saying or what their viewpoint is. So they're not worried about the judgmental aspects that that society throws at adults. I mean, how many of us have ever thought about doing something and hesitated to do it because, well, gee, what's everybody going to think, or what's the family going to think, or that type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's huge. I think that's what we were talking about earlier. Is the risk of social pressure. If you're on Google Plus playing it all, boy, you can see it 9 million miles wide.
Well, look at what peer pressure does to kids when they enter their teens and adolescence stage, and it basically pervades all of life from about the teenage years on. You get into the workforce, you're expected to conform and be pretty much the same as everybody else at work, because that's what the employer at your job expects, and so forth.
Yeah. So social pressure is where the risk is. Exactly. Sure. That's neat. Thanks, Dean. That's exactly right.
Lou,
Yeah.
The reason I said color is that no matter what you buy or what you make or see, depending on the color that you're using, will change the minds of people as to what that is. Is it nice? Is it pretty? Is it durable? But the color affects the mind and what they perceive it to be. And some is light and some are dark. But it does show something special about it. And I personally, color to me, no matter what you look at, it has color. And you could have something all black all over and not get the first thing out of it. Mm-hmm. So you have to learn to use your color properly on whatever items that you're making or doing.
Or you could even change colors
That's
to
right.
try and trigger and initiate different responses and different reactions.
That's right.
That to me is that whole range of perceptions. The perception where perceive things in a certain way, and the artist then can kind of steer that perception in the color. Good. I like that. I would suspect that all the senses have a similar kind of an effect. Smell probably would affect it like color. Taste definitely would affect it like color. The sense of touch could probably affect it. So we'll put that in the whole sensual category. We'll play with that in a little bit more and see if we can't come up with something that will work there. Okay. Each of these guys on this picture have been pals and friends of mine for a long, long time. And without exception, every one of them, especially with Gary Price. Gary Price wanted to be an artist from the very beginning. And he got a really rough start in his childhood. We've talked about it a few times before. Practically nobody grew up with more difficult circumstances than Gary. And now it's become the ace in the deck in his life. The very thing that persecuted and pushed him and tried him so much as a youth is kind of what led him to who he is now. But I could kind of go through that with everybody on the screen and everybody in the show tonight, and probably everyone listening. Each of us have moments in our life when the hinges come unglued, the wings are torn off, and we have to start literally almost from scratch. In that process of going through and figuring out what you had and what you have that's really solid or sound that you can then dream about and move forward, is what I'm looking for now. All of you know what a tape measure is, and there's a lot of uses for a measuring kind of a tool, but there's got to be something in this whole process of measuring compared to what you have always believed and always thought, and we've alluded to it 2 or 3 times tonight as we've discussed the concept. There's measuring tools who compare how it was to how it now is, or to standardize certain parts or certain fits of different kinds of things we're trying to put together. And I sat back and look at, this is one of the earliest engravings I did with the drill. And I just took a pattern and put the outline marks through the stencil onto the patch box. This is the brass patch box off of a muzzleloader gun. And without the pattern, I would never have been able to get those antlers even close. But with the stencil, I began to see it was a measuring kind of a tool for me. It helped me position things. It helped me to look for realism. It helped me to have more confidence than I would have had for doing anything else. But now, after all these years, and I go back and I see that picture, every time I look at that picture, there's a new measurement for Lou Jensen because of that picture and that bear that I carved, such early efforts that I managed to maintain and hang on to. They substantiate how far I've come. And I can't help but think there's got to be something in the Dreamer's Toolbox that plays with this in the same kind of fashion. One of the things that we've not talked about, but that I want to kind of continue with now, is a creative space. Most of the people I play with that are succeeding and doing quite well have a very special sense about their own space, their own place, where they do their creativity and their productivity. And I think there's something significant to that. I feel really strongly about the idea that there's more going on in this world than we can possibly imagine. When you look out through the expanse of the universe and they find all these new stars and these new whole solar systems, whole new gatherings of complexes, and then you can't see to the end of anything. So whatever's out there, there's got to be even more out there, and you can't sense an end at all to the physical side of things. And that expanse is just gigantic. It's just impossible to even wrap your arms around. And then it's just the same kind of thing if you go smaller. If you go down to the atoms and molecules and quarks of what makes up all that out there and makes up us, you have to rely on the fact that there's got to be way more going on than what we could possibly even realize. And most of the time, this special sense of spirit, I usually can tell when somebody needs a call from me. I get this special little feeling, this special thought in my head and heart that says, hey, I need to get a hold of somebody and kind of reach out and hold their hand for a minute, help them manage. But then that same thing in turn comes back and helps me constantly. And I think we should be asking and interacting with that other spirit, that other side of yourself that is maybe that imaginative, intuitive, creative side that you literally can then begin to develop a level of interactivity with other people who lend you that same spirit. It doesn't always involve everyone else. Sometimes it is somebody that you connect with in our circle or outside of our circle, but boy, I sure think I sat there with Jacob last night and thought, my Lord, how different my life would have been had I not managed to maintain that relationship for all these years. And that's the investment that you then make in your dreams and your relationships of people who are like-minded. Don't know how you do it without that, okay? When I came up with a way to name it, identify it, and then enhance it, I just think it's so important. Wherever your space is, wherever you are tonight, watching or participating, the space around you is built and has a spirit because of the things you put around you. The kinds of images, the kind of thoughts, the kind of concepts, the work that you've done in the past. I've got my Samsung Note phone sitting right here and a bottle of Coke right next to it. So I don't identify with most of the Apple users and the Pepsi drinkers as much as, as I might do otherwise. And I've got my life, my surroundings around me in this discovery space, to me, is just so darn important, okay? And it's pretty dedicated, which means pretty determined. I really pay attention to it and realize that if you've got negative music space and negative music influencing you in your creative space, that's not a good thing, and you can control that. If you look around you and sense the kind of colors that you have in your space around you, then there are colors that influence you, like Joni has said tonight, that would help enhance the feeling, enhance the creative ability and the spirit of your space. So I want you to take a look at that and realize that that's got to also be somewhat mixed up in this Dreamer's Toolbox. I've had so much interesting discussion over all my years with the Master's Program, because all the Master's Program to me means is a challenge, a target, if you will, for you personally. It shouldn't be a measurement of you against anyone else. It has nothing to do with anyone else. It has everything to do with you individually. And all I do is arbitrarily put that into the equation to the point that you begin to perform. To me, the success that everyone's looking for is a degree of focus, a degree of energy, a degree of persistence, a degree of what I think is exceptional contribution or exceptional expression that starts to define then who you individually are. And so as you're moving in that direction and you start to see things that really influence you, the ideas and the concepts that are saying, oh, I like that. That fits with me. And you put those things over in this journal that you constantly are mixing with. Eventually, those dominant thoughts begin to rub off. And all of a sudden, you start seeing that we literally do guide our own course. When Jack and I finished last night, we were sitting in his office, and he said, Lou, I got something I want to read you. He said, I got it out just for you. And it's the old poem called Invictus, and it's basically the master of your soul, the master of your own spirit. And to have him read that and share that with me under this very unusual circumstance with being friends for so long was just, and I got it on video. I captured that moment. And I sit and think, well, what happens to that maybe after we're both gone? How significant are some of these moments now that then might reach out and touch somebody else and help them strap their dreams, their wings on their own dreams 200 or 300 years from now? So we talked first of all tonight about picking up on the ideas, the expectation that something good is coming your way. And I hope each of you will let that be a dominant thought this week. That what we're doing here is like a chemical formula, a mixture of like-minded people discussing a particular subject. And I'm asking all of you to participate and contribute right now. There's got to be things that you can do that will put this into a functional position that might help you more. Somebody's got their mic on and making a ton of racket. Can you kind of catch your microphones, all of you, and make sure you're still off for a minute more? We're nearly done. There we go. That got it. Then I want you to realize, we talked about this as well, what you can conceive of should stir you. There should be something that's coming to you as a signal that kind of helps you find your way. And I don't think you should ignore that. I think you really need, most of all, to believe in yourself and realize that, like Jose has done here in this last little while, he's worked really hard to stretch his level of belief in himself from one level to the next, to the next, to the next. And I've enjoyed watching that progress because Jose's now coming up on a period of time where he is really going to be able to influence a lot of other people, because now he's done it. And it's going to continue to be something dramatic that he can then play with. And if I knew how to spell positive, we'd really have it worked out well. Expect positive results, and I'm going to let you figure out what that really means. People I hang out with, if you're a negative kind of person, I'm probably not going to be your friend very long. I have a very hard time with people who are consistently upset with this or upset with that, or having problems over this or problems over that. I mean, the whole world has way more negative floating around. It's a storm of negativity now. And the fact that you need to kind of give yourself the medicine that keeps your mind and your hopes and dreams on a positive basis is our individual job. Live as the thought, every dream of yours will eventually work out for the better. If you look at that and realize that that is generally how it works, most things do work out. When I first started dreaming and playing with the forever letter idea, didn't have much. Mel, it was a lot like a sketch. It was just a thought. It came from the moment when that woman asked me to engrave this. Women had been lifetime friends and had been pals for 65 years, and one was dying of terminal cancer, and she wrote a one-page "Don't Forget Me" letter and asked me to engrave it on a piece of glass for her girlfriend. The mixture of everyone who saw that letter, or everyone that was involved or participated, was so dramatic. I kept thinking, my gosh, there's got to be something. There's got to be something here that I'm missing. And I stayed with it. I played with it. I pushed it all over the place. I sketched it. I molded it. I just wouldn't leave me alone. And then one night I was in Denver in a hotel. I'll never forget it. I woke up in the middle of the night, literally Sarah Raines almost shouting at me, "Forever Letter." It was just almost the most unbelievable thing, because I woke up with the name Forever Letter. And all I think I really did was just stay with it, just play with it, just don't let it go. When you find things that really touch your heart and your spirit, then you start dreaming about it, you start playing with it, you start cultivating it and nurturing it, incubating it to the point that it then starts to turn into something. It took me a while more to price it. It took me a while more to kind of figure out how it ought to work out. And as I started moving from an engraved one to a sandblasted one, I offer the hand engraving for $100.50, and I can do 4 of those an hour. I can do the sandblasted ones, and I can do 3 an hour. And I have everything all set up so that I can really sit down and bang it out. But I just try and help each of you to look for these same kinds of potential items that could really be productive for you, and then realize that as you stay with them and entertain with them and play with them and mix with them, that's when they start to really respond. They start coming in a direction and from a way that I don't think you really can realize how dynamic that can be in your own individual world. Even if you only did 1 an hour, how many part-time jobs out there are in that same range with what Ken has been able to, Ken and Ron and all these guys are doing calligraphy, engraving. Jose does a lot of that as well. I don't think you realized when you started playing with that high-speed power pen there was $100 an hour in it. And most of the world still doesn't understand what we're really doing. And I think, what an advantage. What kind of potential is there out in the marketplace now when you begin to dream about and entertain these individual ideas? I do Jack's children's birthday gifts and thank you gifts, and have done for years. And this one, I found a card that the greeting card company, what are those? Hallmark. When Hallmark had a greeting card, and I saw it, and it was a dad's message, his prayer to a daughter. So I had Jack rewrite that prayer in his own words, and then I etched it on these. These are about, I think, 13, 14 inches tall. And then I found the candle-lit menorah, and I have used that over and over and over in his life. But oh, isn't that a gorgeous line drawing too? But to be able to produce something like this, I do the things that no one else can do. You're never going to see something like what I produced at Walmart for $10. You have to think differently, think uniquely, and push your own thoughts further out there than perhaps you ever have before. And then trust in the fact that you're about to find something that most other people don't find. Those who keep dreaming are the ones who contribute and thrive. And if there's anything you can do with this, whatever's left of your own individual life, find something to contribute, and then you will thrive and prosper. I don't know of a better subject, a better way to move forward with your remaining years than to find something to target and to dream your way forward. Take your dreams and guard them, grow them, and have them turn into your entire life and living. It is uphill, and that's why we try and travel together. Traveling in good company makes it so much more worthwhile. Those of you that are playing on Google Plus with me a lot, appreciate your contribution so very much. I personally think it's an awful lot of fun because it's a measurable contribution like we've never ever had in life before. And I personally think it's going to end up being extremely valuable. So as I get these little videos done, I'm going to do a series of videos on trying to help people get on Google Plus and get started a little easier, because it seems to me that's the real problematic point for those of us that have been behind the times, not maybe as sophisticated with a smartphone as we ought to be. We'll try and bring that baby boomer and that golden age person up to speed just a little bit quicker. This is the core of the thinking for the last almost 25 years. To begin to discover the process of moving your life from your as-is world to something better. The same kind of plan, the structure that most great adventurers and discoverers have used and followed. It goes from a dream to a map and a plan to the gathering and preparing to the official launch. There's just no other way to look at it, with the fact that they for sure started with a dream. They did their share of gathering and preparing, and nobody left without a map or a plan. From that point forward, then it's measuring and tracking your progress and your creative problem solving and your ability to share. So these are the 7 tools, the 7 methods to move yourself from your as-is world to something better. I'm hoping that we can literally take these things we're talking about and move in the direction of the art is your way. The quest is the joy that you'll find out of it. I don't know how you be passionate or have an obsession unless you're as involved with your own thoughts and hopes and dreams as what's on this list. It really is the true therapy for the remaining part of your life. When I finally saw in Jack and Woody's life that their living was their life and their life was their living, nothing I have bumped into has given me more personal strength ever since, because that is a better way to grow old. Just making a living, just making a paycheck, and then go clear over and have a life with something else is a lousy way to grow old. And there is a way to turn your living into your life and your life into your living. Great to climb the mountain of success with my friends. I appreciate all of you and what you contribute. And every time you have an idea, something that comes along now, when we really dig into the Dreamatics idea, the study of dreaming should be pretty high on your own individual priority list. Whenever you bump into a quote, whenever you bump into an idea, something that would fit here, I would really appreciate hearing from you, because that's kind of the remaining part of my whole life from here on out. I am hoping that each of you will find a similar kind of an idea and concept for you to go forward with. It has been the delight of my life to play with Doc's Hatchery for so many years. Alrighty, let's just back this up here. Let's see, how do I do that? Oh, clear over there.
Okay, adjust your camera.
Just my camera. Get the camera where it should be. Huh? Right about there. And adjust me.
Yeah, there you go.
There I go. Where should I be? This way, right, left, backwards, forwards, whatever.
Hey, Doc.
Yeah, Dean, comment.
We're talking about dreaming. I have a possible source of a dream, or for a dream for everybody.
Okay.
If you go out there on the internet,
Okay.
to a website called Expedition Granted, 2 words, or all one word, expeditiongranted.com. National Geographic Society, it looks like in conjunction possibly with Jeep, is giving away $50,000 grants to anybody who has a dream or a project of any sort or whatever that they're trying to initiate. You have to put up a proposal that's judged by a panel of judges. But if you should be chosen, it could be $50,000 to help you
launch.
Exactly.
That ought to light a few fires.
I would think, yeah.
I would think. Is that not what's going on here? I refuse to believe that not every one of us who mix here, every one of us who bother to play with this as a new tool, and we're going to learn it, we're going to be better then than we are now at using the tool to help with this very thing. And when Dean finds that and then turns around and is willing to share it, I'm watching very carefully all the posts that really I like. I'm collecting them over there in my digital journal, and I'm looking especially at the thread of the colors. I'm looking at the thread of the combinations and the concepts that I'm enjoying. How many of you saw that line drawing? It was a computer-generated image where it just fanned out and folded over on itself. Remember seeing that last week or two ago? Man, it has captured my attention. Ron?
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
I saw it. Yes, it is.
It was just an amazing thing, and it's kind of new. Now, if you just don't do something with it, then that will gradually dissipate and go away and doesn't influence you anymore. But I've got it over there in that journal, and I like playing over there. I spend some time over there. I don't just post it and then forget about it. I'm going down through that stream constantly. And as you thumb through the stream of the stuff you've put into your personal digital journal, you're going to start to see trends. You're going to start to see these threads of interest. You're going to see particularly marketing concepts that you really need to focus on, because you're only after the half of the economy that like what you like. You're not trying to appeal to the whole economy. That's a bad marketing decision. But as you start playing with that more and more, you're going to see it'll make all of your marketing and selling easier as you see yourself better. Cool. Really neat. Great thought, Dean. Everybody, expeditiongranted.com. Don't anybody tell Robin Colson about this. Okay? She knows how to play this game. Isn't it fun, though? Wouldn't it be just awesome if our circle got to have an opportunity and chance like this? Do you know they're probably giving out quite a few prizes, aren't they, Dean?
I was on the site. It looks like it doesn't look like it's necessarily been running for that long. Maybe half a dozen or so at this point.
Just up, yeah.
Yeah, not only. There is one of the judges is listed as being an artist, so that might help.
Yeah, why not? Why not? What an opportunity. Let's play with that one. That will be an awful lot of fun. Okay, Jose Valencia. Will you please keep us informed of your next moves with this big adventure of yours?
I sure will. Like I said, they're supposed to get back in touch with me next, the beginning of next week, and then hopefully they'll tell me what kind of artwork they want. That way I can have it ready from here and get it on my paper, my transfer paper, and just get ready to go.
Be ready to go. That's going to be a tough job. That really is going to be so miserable for you to go over in that great big fancy home and spend all that time working. I feel so bad for you.
Well, actually, they don't have the doors yet.
Okay.
So they got no air conditioner.
Could be hot, huh? Get you a great big fan. That'll be all right.
Yeah, I still have the slab here. So if any of you guys that are close here in the neighborhood would like to come on over and visit me, Lance, come on over and take a look at it, right over here.
Should be fun. I'm so proud of you. Accomplished a lot. This has been an amazing little period of time for you. And if there's anybody in this group that's persistent, it is Mr. Valencia. He has got that down.
Yeah.
He's a very hanging person. All right. Unless anybody's got any other comments and little words of wisdom tonight.
I got one thing I wanted to mention.
Well, you bet, Lance.
When we were talking about dreaming, and then you brought up in your presentation, you're talking about having an area. I realized that I have two, and I have the initial when I'm dreaming and trying to get ideas. I can't have four walls. I've got to be outside.
That's good.
Or things just don't seem to, or it feels like writer's block must feel or something like that, and I get out and just either walking around or just seeing things outside, and then all of a sudden things open up, and then I can sit down and start putting it down once I get back into the studio. But if I sat in four walls, I'd never figure out anything. It's kind of weird. I don't know if anybody else has that problem, but four walls can be like writer's block to me.
The guy that has the most patents in the world is in Japan, and he's the guy that invented the floppy disk when that came along. He put the floppy disk into place and controlled that technology forever. He made an awful lot of money, and he's patented everything that crosses his mind ever since. And he has 3 rooms. He has a room where he generates the idea and new combinations, and then he has a whole nother room where he goes into that is designed differently to help him flesh the idea into reality and begin to try and move it from theory to practicality. And then he has the final room is the productive, where he begins to zero in on and really focus on the product that would actually start working in the marketplace. But the first time I read that, I thought, "Ooh, what a great idea."
I bet you if you walk in those 3 rooms, they all 3 have a totally different feel.
Totally different feel. I would expect that. Yeah, Lance, I would expect that exactly. And so what if our environment really does control our creativity? How, as an artistic person, how would you dare ignore that? I'm convinced that really is part of that whole process. So be careful what you wish for, keep careful what you dream about, and take a little care and concern for your circumstance and your studio around you. That seemed to make some sense tonight, Deb. You're quiet again. You're thinking, I can tell, clear from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Taking it all in.
Taking it all in. Well, we expect you to contribute. You have quite a feeling about your work, Deb, and I've always felt like you really have. You're just kind of waiting to have the whole world discover how talented and capable you really are. So it's a lot of fun to mix with you guys as a group.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a concept, thought tonight? I think we've just about worn this week out. I'm going to relax tomorrow. I told Tammy, I says, we're going to go get a movie in and just kick way back tomorrow and take it easy.
Yeah, don't be afraid to say, sure, I can do that.
Yeah.
Then go,
Now what have I got myself
into? Okay, well, what do I have to do to get this done?
Now I'll call Mel and ask him how.
Yeah, that's what we all do. We all call Mel and say, okay, butthead, now what do we do? Now,
I know, something that I've learned over the past, month or so. Not only do you have to have persistence, but you got to have faith in yourself.
Yeah.
There have been several times over the past couple of years, I was close to just throwing my hands up and saying I quit.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it, whatever. But instead, I kept that persistence going. I kept digging at it, kept, working with it, trying different things, learning how to use the tool. and gradually started building the faith in myself and what I can do.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't done that, I never would have touched that motorcycle wheel. If I
Mm-hmm.
hadn't built, get that persistence going and built that faith in what I can do. I guarantee you, it's scary. You're out at a bike event somewhere, and somebody, pulls up underneath your canopy on a $30,000 Harley and says, "Here, can you engrave something on this for me?" Ain't that scary?
That does pressure.
Hey, sure. What do you want?
Yeah,
Well, especially,
absolutely.
there's some of these guys that make me look like a midget. They are big boys.
Yeah.
I understand.
I want you all to look at something one more second before we quit tonight, too. Go to Jay's and pull your voice up, Jay. I can't hold your screen for some reason tonight.
Huh.
There we
Okay.
go. Okay, there I got it. Look at the tools he's got hanging here. Okay, this is the tools that he's beginning to learn, to develop, to use around what is his passion here. And if you'd say, well, the tools are physical reality stuff here, but the tools we've talked about all evening are really as important to your future as these are. Being able to develop your ability to conjure up your own personal dream of where you're going and why, and then stay on that. Don't let anything dissuade you from that point forward. And then I think we'll have something really significant to share with the world. Because right now, the world is losing its dreams quickly, especially in the generation of people that are our age and older. Can you imagine the fears and anxiousness of elderly, senior people in this country tonight? Afraid of their health and afraid of their finances, and they don't have anything to believe in and hope for anymore. Just amazing. And I think we're kind of on a crusade in a way. You've got something that you already are pulling into your own life that you now have that you can share. And that's always the beginning of a great business. It's not just what you're doing that's important, it's what you're learning how to do is where the real money and the real influence is here. So good stuff, gang. Appreciate you coming on and participation. We'll